All right, we're gonna be forming a oil change on a 2006 Legacy 2.5 GT. Just gonna kind of just show you a basic oil change. If you don't have a lift like this and a catch pan, you can definitely do this at home just by jacking up the car with an oil catch of some sort. First thing we're doing, we're gonna drain the oil. You need a 17 millimeter socket or wrench to go ahead and break this loose, the oil pan drain plug. So I'm gonna go get that. I'll be right back. This is also a good time to inspect the drain plug. Look at the threads, the outer portion, make sure it's not all stripped, that it looks nice and square. Also look at the drain plug washer, make sure it's not crushed or deformed in any way that's going to cause a leak. You always want to check these out because this definitely will cause a slow oil leak. This one looks good. So then while the oil is draining out of the pan, you can get the oil filter too. Go ahead and break that loose, and it's going to start coming out. Kind of just let it drip. And then while you're letting this drip, look up at the oil cooler, see if you see anything going on. It's the best time to take care of it. There's an oil cooler tube right here. I want to just check it out, make sure there's no stress cracks or little pinholes or any kind of damage to that. Feel it, make sure it's soft. So that looks good. And then we got a new micro guard filter. There's a rubber seal right here around the filter. I always take a little bit of the old oil and put it around the rubber seal. That's going to help you later on when you take it back off again, that it will make it a lot easier to come off, and it won't stick to the metal up there. And then make sure you wipe off any excess oil that may have gotten on the filter or your hands when you were spinning it. So that way you don't think you have an oil leak. Same thing with the drain plug. Make sure you got it on there flush. If it's not going on straight and it's easy to spin, stop what you're doing. Don't force it. Stop, pull it back out again, and probably just don't have it on there the right way. You don't want to cross thread these, because then you gotta either retap it or get yourself a new oil pan. And it doesn't have to be monkey tight, just nice and snug. Don't over tighten these, because you can definitely strip out the threads inside here. That's the one really important thing. Just make sure you do it snug. Don't over tighten it. Same thing for the filter. Don't over tighten the filter, because you'll have a hell of a time trying to take this thing back off again. All right, so we got the car on the ground now. We're going to go ahead and fill it back up. So for everybody out there, this is where you're going to find your dipstick right here. It's always got a yellow top to it. It's usually right next to the oil fill tube. It also has a yellow top on it. It also tells you what grade of oil you'll need. This car actually takes 5W30. Depending on the oil filter that you put on the car, it can vary between about 4.2 quarts to 5 quarts of oil is what you'll put into the vehicle. So we'll go ahead, we'll pull this off, and we'll start putting some oil in it. And I always pour with the top of the bottle up. Actually gives you better control with the air bubbles that get into the bottle. Gives you a smoother pour. And if you guys have an oil fill adapter, they usually come with different fittings on them that apply to different car applications. You can actually, looks like a lid, you spin that on there and it has a little funnel that attaches to it, and then you can pour it in through there, and it makes it a lot easier. We don't have one, but those are very nice to have. Okay, so I got about 4 quarts in the car right now. So what I'm gonna do is just before I start the car, I just kind of want to see where I'm at. You have your low line and you have your full line. The safe zone is in between these 2 lines. You don't ever want to be above it. Too much oil in your car is not good. So right now, it looks like it's reading full at 4 quarts. At this point, what you need to do is start the vehicle and let it run for about a minute because the oil has not filled up the oil filter. And after you start the car and you recheck, it's going to show a different level. So you definitely want to do that before you actually just put a full 5 quarts or 4.2 in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start the car up. I'm going to let it run for a second, let the oil go through the system and fill up the oil filter. This happens relatively quick. You don't have to run the motor for very long. All right, so now we're going to go ahead. After we started the vehicle, we'll go ahead and pull our oil dipstick out, wipe it off, put it back in, pull it back out. And so we're showing right about there, about halfway. So we need about another half a quart to get us up to the top. And if your oil cap looks really dirty around the rubber surround, I would suggest to clean that off as well. It's always good to do that because if you have a piece of debris or something that could cause a gap between this and the cap on the rubber, you'll get oil leaking down the oil fill neck, and it'll look like you have like some kind of an oil leak down here when it's really just coming from here. And if you look right there, we're perfect. We're good to go. We're right at the fill mark. That's perfect. So that was probably about 4.5 quarts of oil. So it will vary depending on the oil filter you get, if it's a bigger one or a smaller one, because there are different sizes. And that is how you perform an oil change. So go ahead and check us out at sspparts.com and subscribe.